Hey, what's going on everybody? Blades for here, and today for you guys another video of Persona 5X. Inside today's video, guys, we're going to be going over Rikos 4-star weapon and her 5-star weapon, seeing the differences of exactly each one, and deciding if it is worth pulling or not. A lot of you guys have had this question, at least especially inside of my Discord and in my DMs recently, and I've answered it plenty of times, but a couple of you guys still need at least a clear refresher on this one, so I'll be going over each and every last difference here, and if it is truly worth getting for this character. If you guys are interested in this, be sure to sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. And as always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're feeling generous, leave a comment as well. It really does help out the channel quite a lot, and I really appreciate everything anyways. But before we get into the video, as always, if you want to be a part of at least of my community here, be sure to check down below in the description. It should be our Discord right then and there called Gotcha Metaverse, in which I'll keep all of you involved and at least updated on whether P5X has its global release, TW updates, KR updates, and CN updates. So look forward to that. But now that we got that all out of the way, let's get to the video. So for Riko, this character has recently came out. She is a support buffer here. And one of the main things that we're looking at, or at least the main thing that we're going to be looking at here, are the differences of her 5-star and her 4-star weapon. And the only time I really like to compare these two is actually if I get them go ahead and get the 4-star R6, because eventually down the line after free-to-plays, either just summon a lot or either you just summon a little bit, get lucky, or get these boxes for free that we get often, you'll be able to max dupe this weapon. And so a lot of folks are wanting to know, what's the difference? How do they compare? What is really better? I can straight up say for this character here, you're gonna want that 5-star weapon no matter what, but instead of just saying that and not giving you guys a real reason, we're gonna go ahead and break that down as well. So firstly, let's go over at least what each weapon does. The 4-star weapon called Sunny Starlight here actually increases your attack percentage by a whopping 12% up to 24% when maxed out here. And then whenever you use a Persona skill to restore SP, it will then increase your own crit damage by 8.7% up to 16.5% for 2 whole turns up to 2 stacks. Now, this is pretty decent here, because no matter what, we're always going to be using at least a Persona skill with Riko to restore our SP. This is actually part of her whole kit in general here. So of course, when you do use part of her kit, she's going to actually restore her own SP. No matter what you do, this character is going to end up doing this, and that is also because of her skill 2. Her skill 2 kind of contributes to that, but also her skill 1 does help, because by using her skill 1, you're actually able to get 16 at least SP back. So by using your skill 2, if anyone does actual damage afterwards, you can then restore 12 SP to yourself. Now, all in all, this is actually really good. I mean, you can easily kind of proc this at all costs, but what's the problem is, of course, you do have to attack, or of course, with this other one, you have to use specific moves. It is really good to at least have here, at least to say, but with that in mind here, it still does have a very huge requirement that, unlike at least the 5-star, it doesn't have that requirement. It's automatically really there. So the 5-star kind of does have a little bit of a requirement there as well, but it's kind of covered up by the extra effects that you end up having with it. The 4-star weapon itself is pretty darn good because you're getting yourself a decent bit of buffs. Let's just take an example. We can buff our crit damage, as I said, by 8.7 up to 16.5% for 2 whole turns. The good part about this is that actually can be stacked times 2. So that 16.5%, you might as well times 2 on that, and you're able to get even higher than normal, which if I'm right is around like 30, I want to say 33 or 32. I think it's 33% right there, and which is pretty darn good. Okay, that's not that bad of crit damage. It kind of does make up for not having the 5-star weapon there. Seeing the 5-star weapon at base, if you just have that, at least for the base crit damage that the 5-star gives you, that's 36%. Wow, this is now 33. Not bad at all, really. But can it hold up? But before we go into that, of course, let's go ahead and look at the 5-star weapon. Now the 5-star weapon here, which is called Winter Crane's Dance here, this one automatically has that base crit damage I was talking about here. This base crit damage is 36.3%, and then whenever you do use a skill on allies, which is all part of her kit as well, it increases all your other allies' crit damage by 13.2%. If you have this maxed out, 25.2% for 2 whole turns. Luckily for us, that doesn't stack. So once again, we're not really missing out too much for Riko's crit damage herself, but we are missing out on the extra effect of at least buffing our allies with some crit damage as well. But that lasts for 2 whole turns. And then of course, when you use persona skills that consume SP, it actually will then increase the main target's damage dealt by 3.3% up to 6.3% if you have it maxed for every 50 consumed amount for 2 turns. So let's just put it this way. The more SP you consume, aka 50 being the baseline, the more damage dealt you can get, at least in this amount of turns here. So surely do keep that in mind, seeing that now you have of course the additional crit damage effect by having the 5-star weapon to your allies, and then of course you get that extra damage dealt effect by consuming more SP. Both of these are things that of course the 4-star weapon cannot do, and it does add on immediately to this, seeing that of course you have that at all times. The other part that kind of makes this a little bit better is of course, remember, we have that base crit damage. Unlike the 4-star weapon, that doesn't really have the base crit damage. Not only do we have to use of course a skill to restore SP, but we have to do that twice to get the max amount for the stack, or at least for the max amount of stacks. So that's kind of a little bit of the differences when it does come down to this. With Wind Vast being at least a mainly crit damage buffer, you want to have a lot of crit damage and SP recovery, that's gonna kind of take a toll on her kit. But now we went over at least the actual weapons here. Let's go ahead and actually try out each one inside the battle and we'll talk about it. So stat wise, when of course we're looking at this, I went down a little bit on average because of course we're taking down her crit damage a little bit here, and she's sitting at a whopping 195.8%, which my wind is not crazy optimized yet, so just think of it as a temporary number, I guess. But that wise, she's not looking too bad. She's 195 here and it's pretty okay. But the question is it still really runnable? So let's go ahead and get into a fight real fast and see exactly what we can do. Now, we don't need anything too difficult here. We're mainly just going to be testing out the buffing potential and seeing exactly what all we can do here. So let's go into, at least, I guess we can go into this one here because yeah, she is dealing some extra damage here. And let's go ahead and pop in a regular team here. Use Mont, and then where is it? I mean, we can use, let's go ahead and just use Vino. I think that would be perfect for this one at least, and I think those are all pretty decent. So let's just pop this here and have one more persona. I think one other persona is going to be Yanosik, and then we'll try to use Norn for this one. All right, so we have our weapons ready, we have everything all together, we have the 4-star character actually ready. The real question is, what exactly can we do? So with this in mind here, we need to see exactly what's happening here and how this one does go. And this one is going to be kind of interesting. So if we go ahead and actually, I accidentally had this on audio, or at least on auto. So yeah, that kind of messed me up with that one here. Let's actually go back in here. I actually kind of messed that up real quick, my bad. But now, of course, since we are starting with Riko, we can see what we can do. So checking out our stat wise here, or checking out what we can do currently, we're going to go ahead and take a look at this one. Our stats are still looking the same. Everything looks kind of normal. We have a crit damage of 32, well, 3,000, Jesus, I can't stop numbers today. 325%, almost 326, which isn't really that bad at all, with an SP recovery of 473%. Now, once again, this weapon itself is increasing our attack based on the elite persona skills that we of course restore SP, and increases our own crit damage by 8.7 up to 16.5% for 2 whole turns. So the first turn, since we need to of course restore SP for this here, our crit damage is 325%. And if we go ahead and use one of her skills, which this can be her skill 1, her skill 2, kind of up to you on this one here. But the issue is we can't do that first round off rip because of course we need to first buff someone. So we'll go ahead and do this here. Immediately get this, and that has used our SP. That has used a decent bit of our SP. So at this point in time now, we just have to do whatever we need to do in order to gain said SP. So if we just go ahead and do this hit, it's gonna immediately just get this on done here. And I don't think we really need to kill anything. Let's just go to Norn. Use guard 9 here. Boom. All right, now it's going to be the enemy's turn. This round is where you have to switch things up. You either use skill 2 or skill 1. Recently it's been more of a skill 1 ordeal for people who have a 0, but I still will say going for at least the skill 2 is probably a little bit better, especially if you're looking for just getting up your stuff here. So by using our skill 2, we're actually able to recover around 12 SP for myself, as well as restoring 4 SP to every one of our allies. So let's go ahead and use this here. Boom, got something small, and as you guys can see, we restored SP. So if we go ahead and check our stats with Rico, we can see how much crit damage we went up. So I think we were at 325 or something like that. We are now at 342, which is really good when it does come down to our crit damage. This is going to boost our overall amount of SP, or at least our overall amount of bleed over type deals when it comes down to either using our skill 3, because when you use a certain amount of SP, or at least use a lot of this while having a ton of crit damage, it can bleed over into at least consuming more SP, giving you more crit damage overall for at least your allies. This is one of the things that she kind of does enjoy using, especially when it comes down to at least helping out her teammates. So this is already nice. It's always good to have. And if we also check out some of our teammates here, we can also see a little bit of the things that she's providing. For example, we get 27.1 SP just from this here as well, thankfully to at least her skills, and we're slowly getting more and more effects that are bleeding over. This is always going to be at least introduced with her weapon, as well as released with any of her crit damage that she has bled over. So this is not that bad, at least of a buff here. Damage wise, if we go ahead and just only chuck up damage, in which what I'm going to do here, make this actually a little bit easier as well, or make this a little bit better. I'm gonna go ahead and pop off the ult here just to see how much it affects the ult. So with the ultimate, us doing this as well here, it does increase a certain ally's attack here based on her crit damage. So with the amount of crit damage that she does have due to using the 4-star weapon and getting those stacks here, we actually are getting a certain amount of actual upgrades for our mod here. So if we check out at least what we ended up gaining here, and I think I can check it right here. Yes, okay. We got 24.9% based on this with the blossoms attached here, doing way more buffs for us in the long run. So if we go ahead and do this and see exactly how much we can deal here, boom, 18k off rip, which that's just because that's all he had left. But we probably could have did way more than that. And it gives you a decent bit of bonuses when it comes down to that crit damage amount. This is not that bad for a 4-star weapon, though I will say if you're A0, it's not going to be that good to keep on you. And the main reason for that is because you have to do a little bit extra requirements compared to the other weapon. But let's go ahead and give the 5-star weapon a chance and actually check that out as well to see the results of at least what we've pulled. So if we go ahead and change our weapons here, and we do this here out of nowhere, pop this on here and do this, there we go. We now have this on here as well, and you can actually see the difference of at least our stats. So we went to an average of 96 if I'm correct here, and then our stats for at least crit damage, instead of being like 190 that we were at, we're now at 232% thankfully to this, and we have 418 SP, utterly helping us overall, and this is going to really help out our teammates. So with this 5-star weapon, remember what it adds on. It gives us that base amount of crit damage by 36.3%. And then of course, if we do use a skill on allies, they also get a 13.2% of crit damage added on. So we're gonna start this the same thing way here. And I'm just gonna show our stats again. For Riko herself, we're sitting on a whopping 362% of crit damage here. And then of course, this is with no buffs. This is no buffs attached, nothing like that actually is attached here. But we of course do have that base crit damage whenever we use, of course, what's it called? We have that base crit damage no matter what, which is going to be that nice old 36.3%. That's always just going to come with her weapon. So if we use at least the skill 3 on Mont, once again, we're going to go ahead and test out exactly how much this does give up here. And we can go ahead and check Mont now. Mont is now sitting on a whopping of 269% type crit damage, and as you can see, there's the 31.5% coming at least from our actual character, which is the skill 3 itself. And then of course, thankfully, does having the 5-star weapon, we also do get the extra amount of crit damage due to actually using a skill. Now that's already nice, that's already good. This is the extra amount, which is the flying snow one here. That's always good to have, and we're happy for that. That lasts for 2 whole turns. Now of course, if we go ahead and do this again and we come back and of course we use a skill that restores our SP, it's going to be even better. So first round, just go ahead and do this to this dude here, and then I'm just going to swap the Norn once again. We don't want to change up anything in our order. Same thing's going to happen as always. It's going to attack us as usual, and this time we're going to go ahead and restore our SP. It's going to be another skill 2. Make sure it's actually focused on Mont here. And once again, these skill 2, if you guys don't know exactly what it is increasing our attack stat, at least attack stats, based on 12.8% of our own crit damage. That is over the 100% cap. Now once again, this crit damage that we get from the weapon is way higher than the other weapon. It doesn't require as many requirements there, or it doesn't have any at least restrictions there that we're having. With this additional amount of at least crit damage, we're able to not only restore our SP a lot and get more of that crit damage there, but we're able to go over that cap even further, giving us more crit damage for our allies. So we go ahead and check over here, and we check this again here. We of course still have our 31.5% crit damage, but if we slowly go back down here, we now have the 13.2%. Of course, the damage dealt as usual, 13.2% of the crit damage, and then we have more damage here that is furtherly stacked on even more. This is actually kind of huge of a thing that actually does happen. It's not something that really you'll be able to get too often, but all in all, it is really good, especially if you do have this 5-star weapon. And I really think this is going to be the best thing, especially for a lot of people. If you're trying to use at least A0 R0 with this character, or at least A0 Mont, this is probably going to be the best way to get over it here. So once again, boom, and we get that off. Now I didn't use the little ult here. If we go ahead and use the ult, unfortunately it's not going to show you exactly how much we ended up bleeding over, but if we use the ult just like last time, you can actually see the additional crit damage stacks that we did get, which is from the highlight being 24.9%. This is something that of course you normally would not get, especially not as high as long as we are utilizing the other weapon, seeing of course it's not bleeding over crit damage as much as this one does. But those are kind of the differences. The real question is which is worth it, which is not. I'm just straight up be honest with you guys, and hopefully I've been kind of getting heard pretty well this video here. I've been having some audio issues anyways, but being honest with you guys, for this character, the 5-star weapon is definitely going to be the way to go. Now most characters don't need their 5-star weapons. Most characters can utilize something different, but much like at least certain characters, or at least having characters such as Haru's weapon, stuff like that, this weapon is actually a must-need weapon. It's pretty darn good. If you're gonna keep this character at A0, you need to get the weapon. Any higher, you can probably try to shift around. Like let's say you have A1 Rico, you might can shift around a little, but A0, you gotta have the weapon here. It does help out a lot, especially with that crit damage, and makes a huge difference for her gameplay. But all in all, the 4-star really isn't all too bad. If you still just want the character and you just want to see if it's usable, the 4-star is usable. It's just having A0 is already putting you at a disadvantage, especially for other teams, and Leon being at least the 4-star nuke buffer here for crit damage as well kind of works a little bit better than her, especially if she doesn't have her weapon. So you do have to take that into account. But till then, everybody, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash that like button beforehand and consider subscribing if you are new. But peace out.